Howdy. Today we will... Fuck. Howdy. This video is going to be looking at some of my favorite Helminth abilities in the game. And it's not gonna take into account all of the really broken ones, because, you know, we already know Roar and Ensnare, Gloom, Silence at this point, I guess, Breach, Surge. All of those are pretty commonly known abilities that people run, so I don't think I really need to go over those. So this is going to be like the 10 best Helminth abilities that I like to use outside of those ones, okay? Like, just very interesting abilities that work quite well in a lot of different builds. So where do I start? Let me think. Hang on. I had to type down the list on my phone because I got a really bad memory, so I need to actually remember. Okay, Pillage. The first one, this is in no particular order. This is just like 10 out of order randomly. So the first ability is, to probably no one's surprise if you've watched anywhere more than probably 3 of my videos, is Pillage. Pillage is incredible. It is, in my opinion, the best Helminth ability in the entire game. And I know that's saying a lot, because, well, you know, stuff like Roar and Breach, Surge, and Gloom and Ensnare exist, but Pillage is pretty insane. So this is the Helminth ability you get from Hildren after you eat her in your ship, and you do not get a nerfed version of it. The only change is that normally Hildren consumes, what, 250 shields to cast it, because she uses shields as energy, whereas on any other frame it just costs 50 energy to cast. So Pillage is, of course, 50 energy. It has a base radius of 8 meters, but it does not really scale with range for the most part. Range affects it, yes, but it's more affected by duration, because duration affects how long it exists, and it continually spreads out over a radius for how long it's in existence. I explained that horribly, but I hope you get the point, right? Kind of like Nova's fourth ability. Nova's fourth scales off of duration more than anything. So even if you have extremely low range, you can still make it good with duration. And because of how far it goes, even with the base duration, even if you're at like 50% duration, you're in the negative duration, you're still going to be able to get a very good amount of range on it. So you can see it just spreads itself out, and then when it ends, it comes right back in. Now what this does is, first off, something that very few people seem to know is it status cleanses. That is a very, very nice thing. Not just to yourself, though, but it status cleanses any ally it comes into contact with. The wave does. So you status cleanse yourself, and you can status cleanse all of your teammates. Now, other than that, it will drain enemy armor or shields. It cannot do both, so if they have shields and armor, it will prioritize shields first and then armor. But it will drain a percentage of their shields or armor when it touches them. And when it comes back, it will convert that into shields for yourself, and it can go into overshields. You can see I already went into my overshields because I cast it a minute ago. At base, that blinding effect is from Gar's passive. Ignore that. It does not normally blind enemies. But at base, it drains 25% of an enemy's armor or shields, and that is, like most abilities, is an additive amount. So like if you get 200 strength and then you cast it twice, it will permanently strip all of their armor. So you have a status cleanse, you have an armor strip with a lot of range that is very easy to use, and it also gives you a ton of shields back. So it can also be your survivability tool. Now what a lot of people do nowadays, or well, really for quite a while now, is shield gating with low shield amounts, right? Let me go to like Ember. Okay, they will run catalyzing shields. Here it is, because catalyzing shields reduces your max shields by 0.2, and it gives you a 1.33 second shield gate set no matter what. It can't go above that, can't go under that, because like if you have less than that amount here, like if we go configuration E, 465, we're at 1.5 seconds. I think if you were to have like really low shields, like 200 shields, you'll get maybe a second. Whereas like if you had 50 shields, you'd only get like a third of a second of a shield gate, but catalyzing shields sets it at 1.33. And then it gives you you know, a small amount of shields. And the reason it's nice to have a small amount of shields is that's easier to restore. It means they can come back faster by having shield recharge, though shield recharge does scale off of a percentage, but it will still be faster the smaller the amount. And more often than that is people will run Brief Respite or the Augur mod set so that they can cast their abilities to get their shield gate back. Now this is nice, don't get me wrong, but it has the problem of it's really intensive to make sure you can spam your abilities like crazy, and you get a very short shield gate, 1.3 seconds. Pillage can give you basically all of your shields back, so you can go for a high shield gate build. Now, the shield gate cap is 2.5 seconds, and to hit that cap you need 1,150 shields, so like Primary Direction on Ember is already more than we need. So I could put this on a frame with enough shields, right? Get the max shield gate cap, and then just casting Pillage will, if it hits like 1 or 2 enemies or that are anywhere in a decent amount of levels, you will get your entire shield gate back. And that also means you can shield tank if you want. Like if you don't do high-end content and you just want like to tank stuff, you can shield tank because you get shields and overshields from Pillage. So it's an incredible survivability tool. Status cleanse as well for more survivability to yourself and teammates, and an armor strip. And because of the armor changes, you no longer need it to be at a full armor strip for it to actually be valuable. Full armor strips are still nice, but nowhere near as necessary as they used to be. Because if you want a full armor strip, you're either going to need 400% strength, because the base is only 25, or you need 328 strength and corrosive projection on. That would also be a full strip. Alright, we spent way too long in Pillage. I don't want this video to be an hour long. The next ability I want to show is... Where is... Here we go, because I know I have it on Equinox. The next ability is Defy. Defy is the Helminth ability you get from Wukong. And I think this is probably the most underrated ability that's on this list. I've never seen anybody use it ever at any point in time, and almost every Wukong build I've ever seen is them subsuming Defy off of Wukong. But it's actually a very strong ability. Now, it's not nearly as strong on the low end, but if you do like level cap stuff, oh buddy, this thing is so nice to have. So I'm kind of wanting to not have any... Wait, I can just show it on... Wait a second. Where's Wukong? That way I can just take all my mods off without having to screw up my Equinox build. There we go. Now, Defy is slightly nerfed from the Helminth system. It caps out the armor at a lower amounts, like half what you normally get, which you'll see what the armor amount is in a second, but it's barely relevant at all. For the most part, Defy is almost exactly the same. Now, when you cast it, you go into sort of a parry stance, right? Do this, and then for a short duration, you become completely immune to damage. You get that little immunity on the top right you can see. And after it, based off of how much damage you take during it, you'll get a bonus to armor that scales with, or that lasts like a certain amount of time and scales with duration. And you also deal that damage back to the enemies with a 2x multiplier, I think at base, right? And that multiplier, I believe it should scale with strength. Where is it? Damage multiplier. Yeah, oh no, way higher. 7.5x multiplier. Yeah, that's kind of insane. And that should scale with strength. So if you're doing endurance stuff, if the enemy's like above level 1000, they start to do an ungodly amount of damage. At level cap, they do ridiculous, like literally hundreds of millions of damage. So you cast this, and you take in all of that damage, and then you throw it back at them with a massive multiplier, you can easily one-shot giant groups of enemies. It also has a very nice base radius of 12 meters. It's pretty cheap for only 50 energy, and it also gives armor, so I mean that's not really useful in high-end content, but you know, on the low end it's something, I guess. And because it makes you immune, you can also run stuff to give you your shields back. So you would run, if you wanted insane survivability, where is it? Fast Deflection, and then you slap on Vigilante Vigor. With these two things combined, your shields only have a 0.3 second delay. So you could do that, and then you could also slap in catalyzing shields. You get that 1.3 second shield gate. Now, we're going to get our full shield gate back in 2 seconds of shields recharging, and it has a 0.3 second delay. And the base duration on Defy is 2 seconds. So all we have to do is have a bit of duration, like primed continuity. There we go. Now, whenever we're about to die, we just cast Defy, and we'll get our shields back by the time it ends. And if you're doing like facing several or level several thousand enemies, it'll just straight up kill them. So we'll unpause these guys, come over here. They attack me. I do this. My shield gate entirely back. And it also knocks them down. So it's a crowd control on top of being a panic button to keep you from dying. It is a very, very nice ability. That's mostly it for Defy. So let me see. The next one is a new ability. It is an ability that came out with this last update. It's Ophanim Eyes from Jade. Ophanim Eyes, it has quickly become one of my favorite Helminth abilities. It is very, very good. And what it does is you summon eyes around you. It's duration based. And wherever you look, it will strip armor. It also does a slight amount of damage, but that doesn't really matter. And when an enemy's armor is fully stripped, it will apply a single heat proc. That heat proc does almost no damage. It's basically just like a little bit of crowd control. It also slows the enemy, which is pretty snazzy. And if I look away, you can see that the armor strip is still there, right? The armor strip is permanent. I don't know about the slow. I think it might be permanent as well. But the slow does not scale with strength. The armor strip does. Now, if you hover over the ability, it strips... Oh, my Jade's not maxed out. Hang on, that doesn't work. Let's go to a frame that has the ability on them right now. Like, Nidus. There we go. I should have it here? No. Here? Yes, there we go. So, Ophanim Eyes at base strips 10% def per second. Now, that's actually a bit misleading because it actually ticks every 0.5 seconds, okay? So, it's still 10% per second. That's not wrong. But how it's worded makes it sound that like it ticks once every second, but it ticks every 0.5 seconds. So it's actually 5% every half a second instead of 10% every 1 second. The 15% slow per second, it also applies. So it's, got a bit of a slow like Gloom, and it caps out at 90%. That is unaffected by strength. You can see we're at 115 because Nidus gets strength from ranking up. But it does not affect that, and it does not affect the slow cap. Range does not affect the angle of it, only how far it goes, so range isn't really needed on it. Though it does have a very nice base duration of 30 seconds. It is an extremely nice ability that just, you cast it and then you run around, and wherever you look, stuff gets armor stripped. It is so very easy to use, and if you just need an instant armor strip, or not instant, but like easy armor strip on a frame, this is definitely one of the go-to options, I'd say. Now, on Jade, it can revive allies when looking at them, but that is removed for the Helminth version. That's not a big deal, though. Now, the next ability is Reave. Reave is the Helminth ability from Revenants. Let's remove this. And I have been thoroughly enjoying this ability lately. And I'm going to switch to Mad Rise so I can get casting speed when I show it here in a second. Like so. Now, Reave is a little dash kind of ability, right? It status cleanses you, so that's extremely nice. And it also gives you iframes, complete immunity while it's active. And it's very fast, so it can be used as a movement tool. And it drains enemy HP and shields when you come into contact with them. Now, it says the health drain and the drain, which is shield drain, is 40% at base. That's actually a lie. It is 40% on enemies affected by Enthrall. I don't know why they didn't specify that right there, but, that's a yowzas. Its normal drain is actually only 8% health and shields. Now, it does drain both at once, I believe. Yeah, right? Yeah, because it shows both stats. It drains both at once, and when you drain it, it gives it back to you. So if you're about to die and you reave through an enemy with shields, you can drain their shields and restore your own and get your whole shield gate back. Or if you're like a Nervos and you need health, if you have this on him, you could just reave through an enemy and get like all of your HP back. Which is very, very nice. It has a base duration of 1 second and a width of 6 meters. This also works similarly to Defy, where you could run catalyzing shields and then fast deflection and vigilante vigor, and then usually, assuming you have a bit of duration, by the time the ability ends, you'll have your whole shield gate back. So it's an incredible panic button. You get status cleansed, you run through the enemies, you can deal damage to them, and because it's a drain, it's true damage. This damage completely ignores armor, which is very, very nice. And you can actually scale this up. Now, it may only be 8% at base, but it can scale with strength. And it can also scale with debuffs on the enemies, such as viral damage. So, for example, let's say I switch to Hildren, right? I have it on my Hildren, 328% strength, which means it's now going to strip, like, what, 26% of an enemy's armor? Slightly more than 26, but about 26%, or not armor, sorry, their health. About 26% of the enemy's health and shields when I dash through them. Viral damage makes it so an enemy takes 100% more damage from the first proc and 25% from every subsequent proc up to 10 stacks for 325% more damage. Now, what that means is if I apply the max amount of viral procs on an enemy, like with a companion or something like a primer, like a weapon or whatever, then that means I can strip 100% or siphon 100% of their shields and health. So come over here. We'll pull them all in just so it's easier. Make sure they're all at max viral procs, so we just spam the crap out of Epitaph. Right, they're max viral procs and I just dash through them. One shot. And because it's a percentage base of how much it drains off of them, that goes all the way to level cap. It'll one-shot anything you get through as long as you have enough damage to do 100% of their health and shields drained. It unfortunately doesn't work on enemies affected by Overguard or Acolytes or Demolists, but it's still very, very effective. And it's really nice to have casting speed with it. The base casting speed is terrible. This is with 1 casting speed shard, so I would recommend having a shard for casting speed or Mad Rye if you're going to use it, but it's still a very, very nice ability. Now the next ability is going to be Pull. I don't have Pull on any of my Helminths right now because I switched it off and I don't have enough bile to put it back on frame, or I don't think so. Wait, is it on my Mesa? It might actually be on my Mesa. Don't ask why. No, it's not on my Mesa anymore. Fuck. Well, we'll just go to Mag. So, Pull is Mag's Helminth ability. And what it does is it pulls enemies towards you. It's very, very straightforward. Now, it says 25 meters. The Helminth version has half the base range. So the Helminth version only gets 12.5 range of meters. That is still very good for a Helminth suck ability. A good example comparison would be Larva from Nidus. Has a nerfed version from the Helminth that has, I think, 8 meters. Then I think Ensnare has like 10 meters, 8 meters, 10 meters, something like that. But this gets a massive 12.5, which is humongous. Hungus Budungus. Very large. It also like holds the enemies in place, sort of. It doesn't just ragdoll them. So you cast the ability, look, it pulls them all into the center and then drops them, they get up. It is so very nice for putting enemies all together like that. So if you're using something like Blast, or like you need to get and then enemies group to build your melee up faster, like so. It is extremely nice for that. It's also unbelievably cheap. It only costs 25 energy to cast. And on top of that, here, simulate them again. It also has a very fast casting speed. It is a one-handed casting speed, or cast animation, meaning you can reload and move and sprint and jump and everything while it's happening as well. which is so very convenient. There's not really much else to the ability. It's extremely straightforward and just very nice. I think more people should try it. I think part of the problem people don't use it though is that it costs 60 something percent bile or 80% bile to put on a frame, so that's rough. It's also not a 360 degree, it's a cone in front of you, but I personally don't find a problem with that usually. The next ability is going to be Tempest Barrage. Tempest Barrage is the ability from, where is he? What's his face? Hydroid. Now, the Helminth version of this is not nerfed. It is exactly the same as it is on Hydroid, though granted you do not get Hydroid's passive of having corrosive status procs being buffed, so keep that in mind. But Tempest Barrage is extremely good for armor stripping. Now, what it does is it rains down like water explosive pellet things from the sky. It only costs 25 energy. There's no cap on how many you can have at once. So you can spam it. Has a 10-meter radius, a 10-second base duration, and a guaranteed corrosive proc on every hit, and a 5-meter AoE. So it can strip enemies' armor very fast. Here, I'll take this off real quick. So like these guys over here, just cast it down. And then, this is one cast. There we go. 10 corrosive procs already. That was just one cast. You can spam the crap out of it. You do really want casting speed. I have 2 casting speed shards on my Ureli. So I'll show it without any casting speed. It's a little rough, but it's still not bad by any means. Like, you can deal with that. But having casting speed, like, you know, Matter Eye, will obviously help a lot. Now, on top of that, it also has the augment for it. The augment is called Viral Tempest, and it makes it so each projectile has a 100% base chance of inflicting a viral status effect. That makes it so that you get viral and corrosive. Now, unlike the corrosive, which is just a flat guaranteed 1 proc every time an explosion hits an enemy, the status chance for the viral scales with strength. So if you have no strength on it, just base 100%, every hit will apply 1 viral proc, just like it applies 1 corrosive. Whereas if you have 200% strength, you'll get 1 corrosive proc from every hit and 2 viral procs from every hit. So this lets you easily max out corrosive and viral procs on enemy. Now, even though you can't full strip with corrosive at base, you can easily put 2 normal Emerald Archon shards on a Warframe to increase the max corrosive procs by 2 for each shard, putting it at 14, which is then a full armor strip, which would then let you full armor strip and with the augment apply max viral on the enemy all at once. Here, let me grab energy. And you can just spam it everywhere. It's super cheap, and there's no cap on how many you can have out, right? Look at that. That was so fast. Insane amounts of priming. This is such a good freaking ability. I highly recommend trying it out on different frames. Now, that's pretty much for that. The next ability I want to show is Tesla Nervos. Tesla Nervos from Vobin. Now, I'm pretty sure it's the Helminth version is unnerfed. I think I have it on one of my builds for Caliban, right? Yes, so the Tesla Nervos are unnerfed from the Helminth. It is from eating Vobin in your ship, and on their own, they're honestly not very good. So what they do is you throw them down, and you can have a max of 4 of them out. They're little drone ball things that roll around and electrocute enemies. We'll come over here. You just tap it, throws it out, seek out an enemy, attach them, and just electrocute them and apply the electric proc in an AoE. If you hold the ability, you can throw all of them out at once. That way you don't have to just spam the ability. Now, that on its own, not great. It is electric procs from abilities, so it can proc Archon Stretch to give you extra energy. What you really want this for is with the augment, Tesla Bank. While a target has a Nervos attached, any damage dealt to it will be absorbed by the Nervos and channels into an 8-meter burst of electricity on death. Now, this is just a mini marked for death. So, something important is it will take in the amount of damage dealt to the enemy. So it scales off the enemy's health, basically. And it scales off of it from when it gets on the enemy. So if it attaches to an enemy that's 1 HP and you kill them, it's only going to spread 1 HP of damage. But if it attaches to an enemy that's full HP, then you can make it spread all of that damage. Now, where... Oh, wait, I'm on Caliban right now, duh. We will go ahead and switch to the... Oh, Paris? Yeah, but I have Blasphemy, Paris, Gas, Viral. Here, that works. So we'll reset these guys. Simulate the enemies again. So, first I want to show... It's on a guy that's not full HP, so you can see what I'm talking about. Throw it down. Gets on him. And then we kill him. Spreads the damage, but didn't spread much. And on top of that, it is affected by armor. So if you don't have any armor strip, it's not going to do a lot. But then if they're full HP, it's going to spread all of that. You can see it did a little more. Now, if they were to all be armor stripped, or if you apply viral procs to enemies, that's going to affect it a lot. Like, see, now that they're armor stripped, and then we do it, killed them all. Beautiful. And you really want to hope they attach to, like, thick guys. You do have to deal with the fact that they run around on their own, but you can throw down new ones right where you're at if you need it to attach a guy right next to you, so it's not too big of a deal. Now, the duration they have an infinite duration itself, but they have a set amount of charges, the amount of times they can apply the electric. After an enemy dies that they're on, they just move on to the next enemy. They also have a base status chance of 50%, and that does not scale with strength. The radius of them does scale with range, and so does like the Marked for Death type explosion from the augments. So this is really good to just have run around attaching to stuff. It's like mini nukes all over the place. Very, very effective, very fun, and it means you can use Archon Stretch for extra energy in your build. And the ability itself is extremely energy efficient. It's so very cheap to have and use. That's it for Tesla Nervos. Let me see. The next ability, we got 3 abilities left. We're on to the 8th ability. The next one of my favorites is Desiccation. This is the Helminth ability you get from a Nervos. So the Helminth version is, I believe it is completely unnerfed. So that's good. That's always nice. And Desiccation on its own isn't great, right? It's another case where you want the augment, and we'll show that in a second. So Desiccation deals true damage. That doesn't really matter because it does horrible base damage. It only costs 25 energy. It has a 15-meter range. It stuns or blinds enemies for 8 seconds. It does damage per second of 8 true damage per second. And it has lifesteal, so it heals you when you hit enemies, and then it should heal you when you do a finisher on an enemy, or I can't remember if that's part of the ability or if that's part of a Nervos specifically. Regardless, though, it has some level of healing on it. And it will open enemies up to finishers, so it's a very cheap crowd control ability that just throws sand in front of you and opens enemies to finishers. You can see it's deceptively wide, the range. It's technically like I think it's a cone, it should be. But, like, it's really, really wide. Very, very nice. And then, you know, it opens them up to finishers, which means you can easily build Crescendo if you're using that on your melee, because Crescendo is pretty good, especially on Glaives. But more importantly than that is the augments. Desiccation's Curse. Desiccation's Curse is the augment that makes it so killing a blinded enemy with a finisher has a 100% chance to summon a Swarm Kavats that will spread Scarab Swarm. Maximum Swarm Kavats +2. So, if you don't know what that means, Nervos, after his rework at base, his 4th ability is Scarab Swarm. You will throw out Scarabs, and they will apply Corrosive to the enemy and blind them. And it will slowly spread over the place. Right, you can see it's just the Scarabs start to spread. And it strips their armor. And when you kill an enemy affected by it, it then creates a little sand kitty. And this kitty, they don't work right now because the guys are unpaused, but the cats will attack enemies and spread the Scarab Swarm as well. Well, they can still do that on other frames. So when you look at this, it doesn't show the amount of cats you can have, but the base amount of cats you can have is 3, the Swarm Kavats. Desiccation's Curse says maximum Swarm Kavats plus 2. This is sort of deceptive, so when you use this, it actually... This is total guesswork, complete guesswork, okay? Because I don't know how the coding works in this game. But how it seems it is coded is it, instead of giving you plus 2 and you have a base of a base of 3 on a Nervos, instead, regardless of what frame it's on, because you can use it on Helminth, it sets the amount of cats to 5. Meaning you can get 5 on a Nervos with this, but if it's on another Warframe and you use Desiccation's Curse, you can get 5 sand cats instead of 2. There is a caveat to that, though. If you subsume Desiccation over a Warframe's 4th ability and use Desiccation's Curse, you will only get 2. It'll be like the game thinks you're getting rid of Scarab Swarm, which is where you get the base 3, except other frames don't have Scarab Swarm. Again, really weird coding, don't know how it works, but just never subsume Desiccation over the 4th ability on a Warframe, otherwise you won't get 5 kitties, you only get 2. But if it's over the 1, 2, or 3 of another frame and you use this, you can get the kitties. And they can spread the Scarab Swarm, meaning you can get crowd control and corrosive procs, stripping stuff all over the place from your abilities on other frames, with the cats running around all over the place. And I believe the cats have a base duration of, I want to say 20 seconds? 20, 30 seconds? I'm pretty sure it's 20 seconds. So they last a decent amount of time. And you have to get finisher kills, but that's not hard on other frames. It's not hard to do, especially because, you know, the ability opens them to finishers. So this just lets you get sand kitties on other frames. I would show it on another frame, but just like with Pull, I had it on frames, and then when testing stuff and builds, I removed it, so I don't think I have it on any of my other frames right now, which is unfortunate. But trust me, bro, it works, it works. Let's see, the next ability is Condemn. Condemn is the ability you get from subsuming Harrow, and you get the unnerfed version when you have it. So to show it off, I'll go to my Hildren to show it, because I have it on one of her builds, yes. So Condemn shoots chains out in front of you that chain enemies to the ground and hold them still. And it also refunds shields on hit. It costs 25 energy, it has a range of 20 meters. The range increase? I'm not actually sure what that is. What's range increase? Yeah, no clue what that is. The duration is how long it holds them in place. And the shields per hit is how much shields you get for every enemy hit. And it scales with strength for the shields per hit. The range does not scale it like a cone. It goes out in a straight line in front of you. No matter how much range you have, it won't make it wider. It just makes it go farther. And duration will affect how long it holds them. It also, the way it stuns them, holds them in a position where you can easily get headshots. You can see that? It's made for getting free headshots after you stun them. And because it gives you shields, that means you can also get your shield gate back. So if you're about to die, you just cast it, bam, get your shields back. If you hit enough enemies, you can get your whole shield gate back, which is very nice. It can be a little bit finicky at times, like when you cast it. If I spam the crap out of my operator, right? There's you can see it's a little bit of delay. Like, the animation looks like it's instant. I have 1 casting speed shard on right now, although I guess I also have the casting speed from Madarai. But it's longer, it locks in the animation longer than you would think, so it keeps you from going your operator. That's not that big of a deal, though when Void Cascade, it can get you killed sometimes. So be careful about that, but not usually an issue. It's a very straightforward ability. It's just easy crowd control, easy headshots, which also means, you know, very easy to build in Karnan form, and easy shields to shield gate to keep you from dying. Just a very nice, cheap ability. On to the final ability. The one, the only. Where? Because I don't have the Warframe that has it anymore. We got to go to Rhino. It is Chyrinka Pillar. Chyrinka Pillar is so very epic. Let's remove all this stuff. So this is the Helminth ability you get from Corvex, and it's very straightforward. It just pulses radiation. It's a pillar. It costs 25 energy at base. You can have a maximum of 2 pillars out. If you cast a third one, it just gets rid of the oldest one. The base duration is 35 seconds. That's huge. 35 seconds. So easy to keep them out all the time. It does 1,000 radiation damage. That's decent damage. And it has a guaranteed radiation proc. The empowered duration, ignore that. That only works on Corvex, so you can't empower it on other Warframes, but that's not that big of a deal. It has a base radius of 8 meters, which is quite nice. And it slows enemies by 35%. The 35% slow cannot be scaled with strength. Only the damage scales with strength. The range scales with range, and the duration scales with duration, of course. Now, it's very cheap and very easy to use. You just slam it down, and it pulses a 35% slow and guaranteed radiation. Just very good crowd control. And the base radius doesn't look huge, okay? It doesn't look like it's massive, but let's say you used it on a frame where you built range anyways. That's where it really shines on high range builds. It's like we slapped on stretch and overextended. Where is overextended? Here it is, I'm blind. 235% range. Now it has 18.8 meters. So now let's slam it down. Look at this. That is a pretty big radius for something that takes 0 effort and lasts an ungodly amount of time, and you can have 2 of them out at once. It's beautiful. Just constantly pulsing the radiation. So it doesn't just slow them and radiation them, right? But because it's the radiation proc instead of its own type of crowd control, that also means it's priming them. So more damage from like Conditioned Overload or Gun CO and stuff. So that's really nice. It's just a very snazzy building, and I love the animation and the sounds for it. And how it looks. It's just really cool. Now, it slams you to the ground if you cast it while you're in the air, so you can use it as like a quick get down from the air without having to like lock yourself into your melee slam. That's not usually that big of a deal, but you know, it's another option. Very, very nice ability to have, and I really like using it on endurance runs, or especially in, what is it, Steel Path Devoury. Oh, dude, using my, I think I haven't worn my Hildren builds. I should. Using Hildren with this in Steel Path Devoury circuits, in this, yes, that's what it is, the circuit. Oh my god, it's so very nice, especially when you go really far and the enemies are like level 5,000. It helps a lot, especially on the defense missions, more than you would think. Extremely nice ability. And that's it. That's all 10 of my favorite abilities, other than obviously the really crazy ones. But, you know, I don't really need to explain Roar or Nourish or anything like that, because most people already know why that's busted. And if you want to know, there's like a million videos on it. These are just 10 abilities that I really like, that I think are effective. They're a bit niche sometimes, but they can be fun and useful. So, if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe. Tell me what your favorite Helminth abilities are in the comment section. Adios.